Let's take a look at an often overlooked pistol, the Glock. Now, most people are familiar with the name. Even if you're not a shooter, I'm sure you've heard of a Glock. If you are a shooter, you've probably shot one. They hold a significant place in firearms history for good reason. They've made some major accomplishments over the years. Now, because they're so common, though, I think they become sort of taken for granted. So let's take a magnifying glass to these little polymer pistols and hopefully give you some interesting information about them. Now we'll take a quick look at their design and manufacturer and when they came to market. But what we're really going to take a look at is the options that are available, the models, the calibers, and try to make some sense of that for everybody. And then we'll also include a timeline so we can put in perspective when these different models came to market. Now, of course, most people know that Glock is named after the inventor who had a plastic factory back in the 60s, and he was making knives and accessories for the Austrian military. Then in 1980, when the Austrian army needed a new pistol, uh, even though he wasn't a firearms designer or gunsmith or anything, he talked to some experts in the field. He took a look at the four most popular pistols at the time, and he went to work and he created the Glock. It's a very interesting story. We won't get into that here, but because he was a plastics manufacturer, he did use uh, some construction materials that were new and not necessarily the first time he used them, but he definitely perfected their use. And even in the steels, he used some processes that definitely created a durable and reliable product. And again, all these things are talked about in other books and videos and things. I just want to touch on them here. Now let's talk about when the Glocks came to market. It's all again part of an interesting story. In 1986, there was an infamous shootout between some FBI agents and some criminals. That was really a turning point where U.S. law enforcement sort of made the switch between revolvers and went into pistols, and that just happened to be exactly the same time that Glock was being introduced to the U.S. market, and through media attention and through unfortunately some federal legislation, Glock was really just thrust into the marketplace and just at the right time. So because of that, they're a very popular pistol, and again, they can sometimes be overlooked because they look so plain. They're sort of kind of look the same to everybody. So let's see if we can't help with that. So first off, there were some different generations over the years since 1980 when they were invented. The Glocks have changed a bit, and there's been four generations. Which they started with Generation 1, which was sort of the, obviously the original, kind of the plain version. Then we had a Generation 2, which really didn't change too much, except for the grip texture on the outside, which is the easiest way to tell from the outside, but then there were some inside changes, of course. Then we have the Gen 3. The biggest changes here is that we have an accessory rail, so we can put on a light or a laser under the dust cover in front of the trigger guard. And then we have finger grooves on the grip. And those are the biggest changes visibly. Of course, there were some changes inside as well. And then most recently, they've introduced a Gen 4, which again has some cosmetic changes. So there's four different versions of the Glock. Now, as far as options in size, we have the standard size or the full-size frame. There's a compact or a mid-size frame, and then a subcompact. So there's three different sizes of frame. Of course, there's more types of Glocks than just these three sizes, and those are the lengths of slide. So again, we'll start with that standard size Glock, the standard size frame. Then we have the long slide, and you can see the slide extends a little bit longer on that one. And then there's actually a competition slide, which is longer yet. They all share the same frame. The slides on each of these is different lengths, though. Now, when we talk about the slides, we should also talk about the compensated model. There are some recoil compensated models designated with this letter C, and those are listed there. And those are models that have holes in the barrel as well as some slots in the slide that allow some of the gases to vent through the top to aid in recoil. Now, that's different than some of the slotted slides on the larger pistols that have some of the slide removed to allow the slide to operate. And so this is more of a function than any kind of recoil compensation. So that's sometimes confused, and hopefully that clears that up for you. Next, we have some different textures. The models had different outside texture. The first generation Glock, although it had some texture, it didn't have a name. Then when they changed it, they called it an RTF, or a rough textured frame, because it had a little bit more texture than the first gen. Then this Gen 3 is basically the exact same RTF, just they added the finger grooves. Then we had the RTF2 for a very limited time. at the end of the Gen 3 cycle there, and then the new Gen 4 is considered the RTF3. And this might be a little too technical for some people, but hopefully, again, it'll help explain some of the things you might have seen on store shelves. Next, we have another option. Most recently, country of origin Glocks have almost always been made in Austria, sometimes assembled here in the U.S., but now they're actually created or manufactured here in the U.S. as well. And thanks to our friend Yankee Marshall for giving us some pictures of his new USA marked with the Georgia logo, or Georgia marks. Pretty interesting. Then we've got, unfortunately, an option that's not available to us here in the U.S., but Glock does make a select fire, or a machine gun version of the Glock, the M18. And if we were in a different country, or if we had different laws, that would be an option available to us as well. Of course, people are going to say that's a lot of options, but what might be coming up? Well, let's take a quick look. Now, we've been able to talk to Glock, and they've given us some behind-the-scenes look. The Model 27 Long will be coming out soon, and that's a full-size grip frame, except with the Model 27 slide on the top. So it's a subcompact upper with the full-size lower. And this will be called the Model 27 Long. They asked us what we thought about that when we said it'll probably sell, but this is what we'd rather see, and we're thinking they're probably going to call this the G-Web Special. It's called the Model 24/7. It's a Model 24 slide with the Model 27 grip. And that's a subcompact grip with the extra long competition slide, made just for us, and it'll be called the Model 24/7. But getting back to the seriousness here, we've got some different ammunition that's available in the Glocks. The 9mm is the most plentiful. They make it in all the different sizes, all the different slides, and of course the full auto Glock. The 10mm is only available in 2 models, the 45 in 3, the 40 comes in 5, and the 380 just comes in 2. In fact, that's not available for import, so I don't even have pictures of both of those. The 357 SIG and the 45 Gap both come in 3 different models. Excuse me. So let's take a look at the timeline here, and we'll just quickly say that the Glock was invented in 1980. The second generation came out in 1988. The third generation started in 1996, and then lastly the new fourth generations came out in 2010. This will all be available in a PDF. So if you want to take a look at this timeline, we've added some waypoints for the the Glock name throughout time. Very interesting stuff for people who are interested in this kind of thing. There's some links from sources we got some of this information from. Again, we always encourage you to do your own research on stuff like this. Post the videos and share them. That's how we keep information alive. We urge you to repeal the Hughes Amendment. Look into this. It's the reason we can't have Glock 18s right now, and it's because of lawmakers that decided that machine guns don't have a purpose. So laws can be changed. I urge you to help do that. I always encourage you to support organizations that will support our freedom. We post this information on our websites. We thank you for your support. And as always, thank you for watching.